Hello and welcome. Up. Oh, music. Right. Apologies that I'm a little bit tired today. A little bit of a slower update. Cutting, right? So, okay. Code is going out. And here. One moment. I need to. Google's just decided to ask me to log into my own account again in the middle of it. Let's see. Stream. Okay. Great timing, Google. Thank you. Right. Okay. So here we are. And let's begin. So, welcome to the daily NFT market health analysis with me, Daniel Tenner, aka Swombat, where we're going to look at some charts, some data about what's going on in the market, trying to trying to make sense of what's happening. Of course, there's a lot happening in the last day. Unless you're very disconnected from any kind of news source about NFTs and Twitter, you probably don't need me to tell you just how much stuff has gone on in the last 24 hours. The two big events being UST depegging. UST is a stable coin, and it kind of like clearly had some problems with the way that it was maintaining its peg, and it lost its peg. It went down to 0.6, I think, at some point. It's back to 0.92 now, which is still not one. It should be one. It should be like pegged 1 to 1 to the US dollar, and in the process of trying to um, keep its peg, it sold off its entire Bitcoin reserves, which created a massive sell off in the crypto markets, which created a massive crash and everybody panicked. And like, I don't know, if you were on crypto Twitter yesterday, you would know that it was an interesting time, let's just say. And the other big news, like, was that's the time that Azuki chose to reveal that their founders rugged their own project. Now, I'm happy to share some thoughts about that. I'll do the charts first, and then I'll share my thoughts about Azuki at the end. I don't have much thoughts about the UST thing because I'm not really enough of an expert on stablecoins. But obviously, like selling off, I don't know, something like 60,000 Bitcoins or something that they sold off, like billions of dollars, all at once in order to maintain a peg on a coin would have had an impact on the market. And of course, it did. And we went clean past that 33,000 resistance support that I was expecting there to be some kind of support there. Just shot straight past through, and we're now below it. So let's look at the charts. Well, first thing we notice is there's a massive spike here, but of course we know, and we can look straight away here, that there's some somewhat unnatural causes for this spike. Orange is Azuki. We are seeing that there's also activity that in other projects. So even if Azuki was at a reasonable level, let's say Azuki was like, stopping around here, this would still be like substantially higher than here. And this would normally be bull market volumes, except, of course, that we know the circumstances are that there was this massive crypto crash. So the Azuki volume is suspect because it's due to people selling off Azuki because they found out the founder was a serial rugger. And the rest of the volume is due to people panicking and selling off all their NFTs, thinking that that's it, the party's over, better sell off, everything's going to go down, etc. So neither of those are particularly healthy or sustainable things. How can you go? Sorry, my wife came in with the cat. Um, and so neither of those are particularly sustainable events. I don't expect them to last. The closest analog we have is back when the Ukraine war started, and there was a massive sell-off as well. If I jump straight into the actual top 10 chart, I think you can still see it here. This is where it was. And there was a massive sell-off and a price drop, and it rebounded fairly well after that, even though it was in the middle of a bear market. But it didn't last. It didn't have any kind of lasting impact on the situation of the market. So the trend that we've been in and I've been looking at is this kind of down thing, and I don't consider this to be a change of trend. I think it's going to go back down afterwards. In fact, we know looking at the bar charts that the volume on Azuki as well has already gone down. The sell-off volume hasn't gone down yet; it's still fairly substantial. So we'll see how long that lasts, but I don't expect it to last very long. People will regain their senses and start buying stuff again. And we can see there that the sell-off also kind of spread to other indices, although it seems to have affected the blue chips more than anything else. In bases down to 90, I think, at this point, or 89 or something, which, the 100 floor seemed to be a psychologically important one and has been broken. It'd be interesting to see if we do recover to go past above 100. My guess is if the hype meta is truly coming to an end, 100 is going to be a really tough resistance level again for BASE, but I could be wrong, and maybe it'll just shoot up as soon as Yuga Labs, announces anything. But I don't know. We'll see, I guess. Now, if we look at the other indices, we can see there's not too much happening, so nothing specific to notice, which is as in like the bar charts. There's no distortions other than this Azuki thing that we've already noted. So let's look at the indices themselves. Now we can see that this pump is accompanied by a drop in price, drop in Azuki, drop in like everything. Like if you look at what's happened to Azuki, this is the chart. Like there was this massive activity. This is a 7-day chart, so massive activity here, like loss of volatility. It's sort of rebounded, but the trend was already kind of down for the project, and this has not helped. And the activity will die out. Now, my guess, I don't know how the whole thing will work itself out, but that has been a serious blow to Azuki's credibility as a project. And we'll talk about that again some more a bit later after looking at the charts. Where was I going with this? Yeah, so if we look also at other things, like prices are generally down. It's weird that you get different prices from niftyprice.io than from flips.finance. Here is showing us a little bit of green in the last 24 hours, while flips.finance is showing us red across the board. Be interesting to know how they calculate this in order to get such different numbers. Because here it says other deeds minus 13% in the last 24 hours, and here it says other deed plus 0.35% in the last 24 hours. So, when these sites give you data, maybe double check it somehow. And yeah, so is this health? No, it's not health. And I don't see this as a change of trend. It just messes up our graph a little bit. It's the kind of fundamentals things of coming in. And it just means that we're not going to be getting clear data about the direction of the market until this resolves, which I think will take only a day or two. And I suspect, I don't know, I hope it will consolidate here and start building up again. But I don't know. Right now, my hopes are not very high given the state of the market in general. And, well, we can but see what's going to happen. We'll find out together. If we look at Zenek Old as well, I mean, all the indices are now a little bit falsified, I think, by this sell-off activity. So we can't really trust these as market rebounds. It'll be interesting to see where they fall, when they fall, because they will fall. I'm pretty sure of that. Because not like that activity, I don't think. I mean, I could be surprised, and it could be that this activity here that we're seeing in projects other than Azuki actually maintains itself. If that's true, then we'll be back in bull times. Why that would happen, I don't know. I can't understand why suddenly we would move back into bull times after what's been happening. So therefore, I don't believe that that's going to happen. But, I can be wrong. I'm often wrong about many things. So who knows? Maybe we start stabilizing around here. If we do, then that would mean that this chart will start stabilizing around, I will come down to here and will start going up from here, which if you look here is going to be like here, and that would be really good news if that happens. But I don't think so. I don't think that's going to happen. Don't worry, I will speak to Azuki. I'm not going to ignore the elephant in the room. If we look at Zenek and New, it's also bumped a little bit. Like, there's not a lot to look at these charts anyway, so like I'm not gonna spend too much time on them. I'll be done shortly, and I'll talk about Azuki. I'll rant about Azuki. So here we're seeing again high volatility. Like it's gone up. It was starting to rebound as well, but it's gone up as well, which is probably due to the sell-off. And similarly, also the women-led projects, there was a little bit of a rise in the market index there. I don't think we can read much into the charts right now, other than sort of wait and see, because they're being distorted by this sell-off. In a couple of days, I reckon in a couple of days, we'll have a clearer picture of where we're standing in terms of the market direction. Maybe this is a rebound. Like, it's worth saying that, you know, adjusting the prices downwards by a substantial amount does lead to better, does make the market better value for money, which might bring more buyers in. So it can be a healthy thing for the prices to drop. That's why, like, you know, at least my understanding of how market capitalizations work is that the price corrects down to a very like extreme level, and people who were waiting to actually buy in for a price to reach a level that they really felt was fair, buy in at that point, and then we kind of start the game again at that point. Like, the people who were short-term speculating get out, and new long-term buyers get in at a lower price, and that's kind of what happens in the market capitalization. So if there were people waiting to buy BASI, for example, but they're like, you know what, I think BASI is worth 50 ETH that it was worth last year, but it's just not worth 130 ETH that it was worth a week ago. They might be, but I don't think the market capitulation has happened yet in NFTs, but at some point when the price drops, they might be like, okay, now I'm buying a bunch of BASIs because I actually like the project, but I just thought it was massively overpriced. I don't know all that. I don't know how that applies to the NFT market, but that seems like a concept that might be relevant to NFTs as well. It's worth having, especially given what's been happening, it's worth having a quick glance at crypto as well. Lovely charts, crypto, and just the stock market in general. Like, it's been an interesting time. So yesterday, still we were still talking about how this might how I felt that we were going to break past this. Well, we broke past it. We broke cleanly past it, and it's now, according to the wisdom of how these things work, this is now a resistance level. We still have another thing to break past, though, which is this one here. That will be around 29, like 28.7 thousand, 29,000, something like that. I think we'll almost certainly go and retest that. So 32K, enjoy it while you can. I don't think it's going to last. I could be wrong, of course. I'm not a fantastic analyst or anything. And there was a fair bit of volume yesterday. But my thing that I always look at is the weekly volume chart. And there on the weekly volume chart, I mean, maybe we'll get a lot of weekly volume because we're already like here and we're only halfway through Tuesday. So maybe this will be the week when we get the massive volume correction. But I want to see a bar that goes about this high in terms of volume, like somewhere in that area. As long as it stays down here, I don't really trust that the correction has happened. And maybe I'm completely wrong with this theory, so definitely don't trade based on that. Just sharing my thoughts there. And just for a quick glance at stocks, not just crypto that's rebounding for now. We can see here the FTSE is also rebounding. Obviously, the Nasdaq and Dow haven't had the chance to rebound yet because they're not open yet, but probably they'll have a rebound today. I wouldn't be surprised. So then let's talk about Azuki, right? And if you have any other questions, please do ask them. But Azuki seems to be top of the mind. Oh, actually, before I jump into Azuki, I'm going to tease you some more. Bear in mind that, you know, when everybody panics like this, you can see this like pattern happen over and over again. People panic, they oversell, it always rebounds, like almost always rebounds. Obviously, trying to time the bottom of it is incredibly difficult. But what you can do at least is if you're holding this thing and you're like, oh shit, it's collapsing, don't sell because it will rebound. and sell on the rebound. If you decide, you know what, I want out of this project, don't sell down here, sell up here. And that's true for NFTs. It's true for crypto as well. Like, you know, if you saw Bitcoin yesterday and you're like, oh my God, Bitcoin is at 29K, that's it, I'm selling. Today it's at 31K, you just missed on 3K. And you could easily have waited a day. And you kind of know that when it collapses like this, I mean, if I just go back to far, yeah, like when it collapses like this, if we look at Bitcoin, it tends to rebound. So here it collapsed. It might take a few days to rebound, but like, you know, like it rebounds basically. It rarely just drops and then, like, you know, obviously if you catch like sometimes, but that's a kind of multi-day drop. When there's a massive drop like this in one day, it tends to rebound. Like here, giant drop followed by a green candle that goes almost as high as the previous day candle. Um, yeah, I mean, it's not always the case, but it's like, it's a good rule of thumb, I think. Don't try not to sell into a panic, just like you try not to buy into a pump. So, and keep you calm. It's okay. Life goes on. The world isn't ending. Azuki. So, I mean, the situation is still unfolding. I was in the middle of a Twitter thread with Loopify about it, because he posted a thread suggesting that maybe these aren't rugs. They're just like people have moved on from projects and stuff. Let's see if there was actually a substantial update to this thread. Nope. But somebody did post this this lovely announcement from Zunks, which was one of the projects that got rugged. So for people who don't know somehow what happened, one of the founders of Azuki declared, and what's his name? It's not this one. It's Zagabond, I think. Posted a Mirror article that talked about his long and illustrious history in NFTs and mentioned that he was the founder behind 3 projects that basically, like, a lot of people are saying rugged. And there's some debate about whether they rugged or not. I'm going to fall very squarely on the side of yes, they rugged, for a simple reason, which is that even if there was only a kind of implicit promise that they would carry on with the project, even if there was, in fact, even if there was no promise whatsoever that there would be anything else going on with the project, it sounds like all 3 of these projects were abandoned suddenly with no word, with no clarity, no thought whatsoever for the current holders or original holders of the project, and whether or not, like, it is absolutely okay for founders to move on. And it's a painful process normally for founders to move on, but like there's a way to move on, and the way to move on is not to just disappear from the project full of people who have believed in your project. If you're going to do that, you're going to make announcements. You're going to say, guys, we're sorry, we're going to pull the plug on this project. It's just not working. It's just not happening. We can't make the finances work. You know, like even though I find that is also can also be abused, like by saying like, oh well, you know, we can't quite make it work, but we're going to donate the project to the community. Here, have a DAO and, like, you know, sort it out yourselves. To me, that's still a rug. But certainly disappearing without saying anything, which sounds like what happened in those projects, is absolutely a rug. If you invested in a company and the founders just vanished, taking the money that you invested in them, and they just vanished, and you find out that they started another company in the same market sector like later, you'd rightly feel absolutely ripped off. And that's what people are feeling ripped off by this, quite rightly, and I think they should. And I imagine, I mean, there's theories about why he might have posted this Mirror article. Like, some people are saying that he might have been pressured or blackmailed. Others are saying that maybe, like, there's a collaboration that Azuki is trying to make that mean that he was required to disclose these things before they would go ahead with the collaboration. Either way, it's not a good look. Does it spell the end of Azuki? Probably not. Like, I think it spells the end of Azuki if they keep him. I think if they eject Zagabond and tell him, like, thanks very much, but fuck off now, that's probably the smart move, because he's done the unforgivable thing that founders should never do, which is to just, you know, shit all over his user base. And yeah, like, you're pointing at, like, some people are suggesting that maybe they release it on purpose at this time so that it would be overshadowed by the UST and the bearish sentiment and stuff like that. But I think people are paying attention to this, and it did become one of the big news of the day in the NFT market. So if the ploy was for it to be not noticed, um, that didn't work, and you can see that on the charts in front of me. Um, so yeah, I mean, if you contrast it to Ryan Carson, that was also not an ideal departure. Like, it was a bit awkward, but like at least it wasn't like the whole team just disappeared, which is what it seems that happened on those previous projects. Um, like, I didn't like the way that the whole Ryan Carson thing unfolded. I'm not a fan. I think, like, we don't know what the backstory is there, but like, certainly Kevin Rose seemed to have stayed in charge on top of things and doing his best to manage the damage. And like, projects, like, if you just leave your project and don't do anything to manage the damage, or don't do anything to try and help the project, it's not even like, so the thing is, like, this whole help the project survive is also a cop out. It's like, you know you you go and you like, so in the startup world, failure happens, and investors understand that failure happens. Founders understand that failure happens. Many founders should maybe be a bit keener to understand that failure happens, because it does happen. Like, some, like, the statistics are like 95% of startups fail, which I think are somewhat skewed by the fact that they include all small businesses usually in that. And also, it's unclear what they mean by failing. Like, for example, like, by often the statistics mean that if the startup is not still running in like 10 years, then it's failed. So that means that a startup that raises $3 million, builds something really cool, and then sells for $1 billion has failed according to the statistics, because it doesn't exist anymore 10 years later, which obviously it's not a failure from a startup perspective. So still, nevertheless, I'd say from experience looking at other entrepreneurs, I'd say startups started by entrepreneurs who are really trying to build something really worthwhile and have, like, make the deliberate effort and so on. Still, probably about 2/3 of those will fail. That's not an unreasonable failure rate. Um, if you're looking at it as a VC and you're looking for which startups are going to give you all the returns of your portfolio, then it's like, again, like 98% of startups fail, but then a startup that succeeds but doesn't make you billions of dollars has failed. So again, there, the definition of failure is different. But in all those cases, like, whilst we accept that failure happens to startup founders, we expect, and I expect myself when I'm a founder, um, to give it our best, to give it our best. That's the sort of like baseline expectation of, like, yeah, sure, shit might happen. You might not succeed. You can't guarantee that you're going to succeed, but you're going to have done the best that you can. And like, genuinely, so you're not going to just give it a half-assed effort, um, pick up a pile of money in the process, and then say, oh, it just didn't work out, it was too hard. And if you do that in the startup space, which you can't stop people from doing that, but if you do that in the startup space, your reputation is shot, and you will not raise money again from anybody who's heard about that story. And investors talk. So you will, like, you might need to move to a new country, and even then, like, nowadays investor networks are international. So your reputation rides on the fact that you're going to give a really best effort to actually starting that business properly. Of course, I've railed against the anonymity of the of the NFT startup scene for a while now. That's the part of the problem, that you can have the same founder abandoning projects over and over again. And Zagabond is a great example of that. If he was not anonymous, people would have known this. They would not have invested in, like, once they knew that how he treated his past projects, they wouldn't have invested in his later projects. And that's what people are complaining about, quite rightly, with Azuki. They didn't know who he was. He presented himself differently. I don't know how he presented himself, or if he presented himself at all. But he certainly didn't share all this stuff before. And so they feel misled, they feel lied to, and rightly so, because they have been lied to. They've been deceived. Like, they've been critical information has been withheld from them. So I think Azuki investors are very right to be pissed off. I think the project should probably kick out this person. Um, it will do what it wants. It doesn't take advice from me, obviously, but I think it would be a good move. Just like it would be a good move, not to get too political, but just like it would be a good move for the Tory party to get rid of Boris Johnson. after he's found to have broken the law. And when the project doesn't do that, it starts to reflect badly on the whole project. So the longer I think Azuki goes without ejecting this person, the more bearish I would get on Azuki. But I think that given all that's at stake for them and how well they've played the game so far, I imagine unless Zagabond is the decider who has all the power in there, but if he is, then why did he publish this article? Clearly somebody else had some power over him. But unless he has all the power, he'll be ejected. And even if he has all the power, he might be persuaded to leave. And that would probably be for the best. And he can take whatever millions he made from all these projects and go and, I don't know, live on an island somewhere and, you know, just like do something else than NFT projects. Or start some more under a pseudonym because, you know, nobody can stop him, but hopefully the market will learn not to invest in that crap. Art is the whole and main part of Azuki. If that's not Zagabond, they could do well or better without him. Yeah, I mean, it's obvious. Like when you have, I mean, and that's where, you know, Moonbirds, like that was a not a great situation for them to be in, but Kevin Rose took the sort of decisive action. He said, okay, like this person is no good for the project anymore. So for the good of the project, I'm going to ask you to leave now. And I'm pretty sure there was that conversation that happened. I don't think Ryan Carson just decided to leave and start his fund. I think maybe he was planning to start his fund already anyway. I don't know. There's some kind of, we'll never know exactly. The only people who know what happened there is probably Kevin and Ryan. But there was probably some kind of conversation between them where he was asked to leave. And that was the right decision, I think, if there was so much negativity around him. You don't want to hamper the project by keeping a person that's like net negative on the project. To double down on the Tory party mention, like the Tory party decided to keep Boris Johnson and they just lost 500 seats in local elections. And hopefully they lose more at the next election if they carry on. Well, hopefully they lose more at the next election anyway, but that's just my political stance, I guess. So yeah, I think that's where I'm at with Azuki. Like shit happens, like startups go down, like that happens. But you know how you treat your investors at that point, how you like in the case of NFT projects, because so much rides on how well you're gonna treat, like on that trust that you're gonna treat your early investors right. So much is trust based at the moment that if you treat your investors like shit by just dumping them, then you know, like that's nobody should want to work with you after that. Like somebody made a really good analogy on Twitter I saw, which was would you want to date a person if you know that they've cheated and then like, not just cheated, they've cheated and then dumped, like brutally dumped their last 3 partners? You probably wouldn't want to, like, or if you do, you'd want to like, you know, be extremely cautious around this person, which means that yeah, you probably wouldn't want to date that person unless you really like pain. And the situation is similar there. You wouldn't want to date, or you wouldn't want to invest in a startup with somebody who's rugged their last 3 sets of investors. Seems pretty simple. And if you find out that somebody that you've already invested in is that person, like that they're part of a project that you invested in, if that project is bigger than that person, you would want that person out. That's a very reasonable thing to do, and I hope that Azuki holders pressure the project to get him out and that he doesn't get another chance to rug more people, which will happen if people stop investing in anonymously founded projects. Okay, I think that's enough of a rant about Azuki. Any other questions? I'll put the music on, see if that brings some questions, as it usually does. This has energized me. Thanks for inviting the rant. I do feel a bit tired, but also energized by ranting about Azuki. Wondering if there's been more developments. We'll check my Twitter live on stream. See if Lupify has responded to that. Right, nothing. Yeah, so I don't know if anyone has any other questions. If not, that's totally okay. Thanks, and yeah, I mean, it's like, so thanks, Joe, and yeah, it's worth pointing out that I'm not a trained market analyst. I'm not like I'm doing this because I wanted the answers to this, and nobody else is doing it, and we're still early. I hope that in a year's time there will be lots of better charting solutions than this, but until then, I'm having fun building them myself, and we'll see where that goes. But and sharing my analysis with people and stuff, and hopefully it's useful to people. Do you think we perhaps face a paradigm shift coming out of this dip? Let me turn down the music for this one. Paradigm shift coming out. Well, I mean, I believe so. I've been tweeting about it. I think we're heading towards, it's already happening, a kind of shift in the meta from the narrative-driven NFTs to more utility-driven NFTs. I like to think we are, also because I'm invested in that direction, but also because just I think it's better for the space, and it's ultimately makes more sense to me. Like, it's kind of like, what's a good analogy? Like this shift happened and was very brutal in the web world. Probably most of my listeners were not around for the dot-com boom and bust, but there was a period when anything to do with anything that had web in the name basically would just go to the moon instantly. Like the stock market got really, really crazy. And it's like most of that stuff was really useless, worthless, like, you know, not like it was companies with no product, no revenue, nothing, being like IPOing and being valued at billions of dollars. And yeah, and they bought they overbought inventory, no customers and stuff. Would they, like, you know, spend hundreds of millions building some kind of web front end without having done any customer development stuff? Kind of basically like amateur hour in the web world, which is not that dissimilar to what's happened in the NFT space, where there's been lots and lots of projects promising the moon, but like with no idea how to deliver anything, and all they have is like, you know, they've got NFTs and they've promised a really good story. They've, like, you know, done some cool art, and they're like, yeah, we're the, like, you know, they promise to be the next BAYC, or BAYC itself is promising to be the next BAYC. I think they're definitely part of this meta, and that meta in the web 1.0 bubble died with the dot-com crash. So good crash can help cleanse out this kind of activity, because all the kind of speculators who are there to just make money quickly get out of the market. The money starts flowing more to projects that are delivering some real value, and yeah, the market just gets more discerning at this delivering real value, and then the real promise of the space is delivered. I mean, I'm sure you've all seen the Gartner hype cycle curve. Load that up. Yeah. Go. If you've seen this, there you go. So we're somewhere here now. I think we're over here for most of the last 6 months. I think we're like, or we're maybe on the crash right now. Like, I don't think we're at the bottom of the crash yet, but this is where the real promise of NFTs is going to be delivered. This is where the get rich quick promise of NFTs was delivered. A lot of people got rich really quickly by gambling on the right stuff and just getting lucky, which is fine. You know, that's the way the world works. And then at some point we go down this slope, and a lot of people, all the get rich quick people, leave at that point, because there's no more get rich quick money to be made, or it gets so scarce that it's just impossible to really, you know, make much of it. And the projects that are actually worth investing in start getting more attention, and the sort of like market matures, and like more sophisticated investors starts acting there, either because they've learned through going through this rise and peak, or because they're already professional investors who enter here. And that happened with Web 1, less so with Web 2, and it's happening now with Web 3. Yeah, reading about the Garden hype cycle can be helpful. Doesn't map exactly to Web 3, but yeah, it's a useful model to use for this. Any other questions? So yeah, I think we're going to see a paradigm shift, and I might be wrong, but I think so. We'll see. Okay, it's actually 34 past, so I think I'll call it a day. Thanks for dialing in. I hope you got something of value from this, and thanks for listening to my rant about Azuki. And I'm not going to do a project review today because I feel a bit tired, but tomorrow I'll be back. I need to post a poll actually on the Discord, so please join the Discord and vote for which project I should review tomorrow. I'll post the poll right now after that. So thanks very much. Have a wonderful day. Take care and relax. It's just the market's going crazy, and they wake up the next day and everything's okay again, sort of. And it's just the markets are the markets. Take care. Have a lovely day. Bye bye.